Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here, and welcome to my very first video looking at tactics in 5v5, and we are going to begin with split pushing. I love split pushing. It's a concept that is used in 5v5 MOBAs like League of Legends and Dota 2, and it's been used for years and years. Now that we have access to 3 lanes in Vainglory, we can begin to start to split push. I love split pushing because it allows you to have an impact on the game by yourself, and if you enact the strategy correctly and you play the game correctly, you might even be able to win the game for your team, even if they're feeding. So what is split pushing? For those of you that don't know, it's using the side lanes to your advantage to either draw enemy attention to you or become such a threat in those lanes that if left unattended, you will take all of the turrets and maybe even the armory and potentially even the vein crystal very, very quickly. You are supposed to be a pushing machine. You are supposed to consistently push objectives in those side lanes. You should be running with the minion waves. You should be trying to push as far away from the enemy as physically possible because you want the enemy to commit more than one hero to deal with you. The point of that is that especially if you're playing with a couple of teammates, you can then allow your team to group up as a 4 on the other side of the map and take big objectives like the dragons or the turrets on the other side of the map. Ideally, you want to draw that attention to yourself so that even if you die, your team will get something from it. There's a very good chance as well that the enemy won't send anyone to deal with you, and that gives you that backup strategy of just pushing like a monster. Take those turrets, take those armories, and do it until someone comes to deal with you. There's lots of nuances that you need to be aware of in split pushing. You need to have good vision control, you need to have good map awareness, you need to be able to duel 1v1 fairly easily, because if the enemy can just send one member and they can kill you, then obviously that's going to be a bit of a big deal. But more importantly than that, you want to be a hero that can pretty much chunk turrets super quickly. Someone like Jewel, someone like Saw, they work really well. So firstly, guys, I'm going to do a quick service announcement talking about the meta of 5v5. Obviously, the meta of 5v5 is going to evolve over the next few weeks. What I have seen mostly from the games that I've played is people copying League of Legends meta by having a roam player and a carry in a single lane. And this is not me being salty, kind of salty, but every time that I have played my top lane, I've always faced against a duo lane that stick in that duo lane and don't move. I've won every single one of those games. I think it's just a suboptimal way to play roam in the 5v5 meta. There are so many options for you as a roam player to roam the map, literally. You can go up and down the river with the river buff from mid lane, so you can go towards top lane or bot lane, and you can basically act as a second jungler, looking to affect every single one of your lanes, because all of your lanes are going to have a carry in it now. Obviously in 3v3 you only needed to support one carry and the jungler, but now every lane is going to have a carry in it, so you need to be looking to support every single lane. By committing to just a single lane, you're putting all of your eggs in one of the carry's baskets and hoping that the rest of them are okay with the jungler ganking. And especially if your enemy roam is consistently looking to gank like the jungler, every single one of those lanes is going to receive more pressure than you are putting out by sitting in a single lane. So, little service announcement, this isn't League of Legends. You don't need to play this like a League of Legends meta. You don't need to have a roam player sit in a single lane with a carry. You can roam the map. So let's move on to split pushing. So there are a few concepts to split pushing that I think you guys should get to grips with. I will do individual tutorials on these if you want that. Just let me know in the comments down below. But firstly, as a split pusher, you should know your power spikes. It is very important to know when you are strong as a hero and when you are weak as a hero, because ideally, especially as a split pusher looking to get 1v1s versus the enemy laner, you should know when it's more likely that you're going to win those 1v1s and when you want to avoid fighting and just farm instead. So that's one of the first things that you need to understand as a split pusher. For instance, as Jewel, I know that I'm not really going to be a monster until I've got a bit of critical strike behind me. Ideally, I'd like a tornado trigger or a tyrant's monocle off the back of this serpent's mask before I can really start to take 1v1s significantly easily. Secondly, as a split pusher, you either need to be a big 1v1 threat, so if the enemy laner comes to lane you can kill them pretty quickly and continue to push, or you need to be a pushing machine. Jewel is a bit of both, but primarily she's very good at pushing minion waves and very, very good at taking turrets. If I am left alone with a turret as Jewel, when I've got some critical strike behind me especially, I will shred that turret. And that means the enemy has to send resources to deal with me, or they're going to lose turrets, which means getting us a massive amount of global gold, but also getting us a huge amount of pressure on the map. Every time I take a turret, it means it's another area of the map that becomes less safe for the enemy. For instance, if we put pressure on them, I take 2 turrets in the top lane, suddenly Kestrel has to be very careful when she tries to push a minion wave up towards the center of the map, because she won't know if I'm going to gank from her jungle, and it forces them to have to expend vision control on that area of the map as well, meaning that they're going to have less vision control for things like Black Claw and Ghostwing, and less vision control for our own jungle, making the rest of the map safer as well. So that's the basic concept of why split pushing generates pressure. You should also learn to control your minion waves. I will do a full tutorial on minion wave control for 5v5 over the next couple of weeks, but it is something that you can start to learn on a basic premise yourself. Always look to preserve your captain minion wave. The best way to use a captain minion wave is try not to push too hard when the captain minion wave comes. Try and let the enemy captain minion wave and your captain minion wave duel against each other. When your next minion wave comes into the center of that wave and you have both captain minions still alive, that's when you want to then just absolutely shred the enemy wave, because you're basically going to have a wave and a half worth of minions then at that point to work with, all of them being empowered by the captain minion, and that gives you a good base point to push from. You should also have a minion candy in tow, because a captain minion plus a minion candy is pretty damn ridiculous, and that allows you to push pretty heavily onto a turret whilst that minion wave survives, giving you all the time in the world to take a free objective. Secondly, it's all about map awareness and vision. You need to know where the enemy could gank from. You also need to maintain good vision control around your lane in the enemy jungle, because you don't want to get ganked too easily. Obviously, when the enemy commits when the enemy commits multiple members to you, that's fine, because if they commit multiple members to you, that gives your team the opportunity to do something else on the map, like take bot lane objectives, take Black Claw, take Ghostwing. So if you die, it's okay as a split pusher. It is okay to die as long as the enemy sends more than one member to deal with you. But ideally, if you have vision and map awareness, so you're always looking at what's happening on the map, you shouldn't have to die. You can just back out and run away, and then they've committed members to you, your team still gets something done on the map, but you don't die, and you can just head back to lane and start pushing. You should also know when and when you should not join a team fight. One of the biggest things that people struggle with when playing a split pusher is they say, but my team pings me because I'm not joining the team fight. It's not your job as a split pusher to join a team fight. If anything, you are better off avoiding a team fight and just pushing objectives for your team. Even if your team dies, you end up getting 2 turrets. It actually balances the gold out as long as the enemy doesn't take anything major off the back of the team fight. So always think about the fact that you need to assess whether it's worth joining a team fight or not. For instance, in this game, I don't really want a team fight. I don't want to spend 700 gold on a reflex block, which I am going to need, versus a Churnwalker, a Celeste, a Kestrel Active Camo, and a Koshka. I just want to split push and spend 700 gold on critical strike so I can take turrets quicker. So in this particular instance, I'm probably going to avoid team fighting as much as physically possible. I'm just going to push lanes. But obviously there'll be a time when you have teleport boots where you might want to consider rotating or teleporting into a team fight to help your team, thinking that you could be the difference between your team winning and losing. That comes down to experience and knowing which hero you play and whether your hero functions well in a 5v5 team fight. Jewel, for instance, I think struggles in 5v5 team fights unless she kind of comes in at the right moment when CC has already been expended. So in this instance, I'm obviously going to join Ringo and Alpha here. I've started to push that wave up, and again, just trying to avoid my team as much as possible, and this is going to allow us to get yet another turret on the board. It's very, very simple. You just look to push, look to sit in a side lane, and take turrets. And finally, Vainglory 5V5 introduced the concept of teleport boots, and teleport boots are that wonderful item that allows you to rotate between lanes instantly. A good way to use teleport boots is by pushing the wave up in one lane and then rotating with teleport boots to another lane to push that minion wave up. So what I would do in this instance is I would push top lane, I'd let that push into a turret and the enemy goes to deal with it, and then teleport bot and do exactly the same thing, because that allows me to generate pressure in multiple lanes. The enemy has to deal with the big minion wave on the other side of the map. I then teleport bot and do the same thing, splitting the enemy's pressure across 2 lanes and allowing my team to do whatever they want. And finally, the addition of teleport boots means that you have a lot of cool decisions that you can make For instance, I could be splitting in the bottom lane, the enemy sends 3 members to deal with me, and I then back out. My team puts a scout cam down near Blackclaw. I then teleport straight to Blackclaw. We take Blackclaw for free because the enemy committed so many members to that side of the map. So there's so much that you can do with split pushing. It is such a great tactic to use, and I thoroughly recommend that you guys go and practice it because it is just awesome, and especially when you get it right, it can help carry your team very easily.